I was in the car today. I was getting home from somewhere, and the phone rang, and it was a friend of mine, James, to ask me a question. And it was funny. He started telling me about my daughter. And on paper, James is Mercy's goddad,
Right,
you
we
know.
met.
And you met him, and I was really fortunate when it was time for me to pick a goddad. I had a couple options, you know. I could have picked Timmy, I could have picked George, I could have picked you, blah, 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 blah. And I just knew James a long time. James had a daughter, and in my world, if something happened, James automatically takes Mercy. You know, that's in my world. That's in a perfect fucking world.
When do you think about like godparents? Because when she first comes out, you must be so happy, happy, happy. Godparents is kind of
You
a
know when the
sad
baby's
thing.
fucking born. You know when when you knock somebody up. You know, if you're a guy like me, you'll think about godparents, okay? Because my godparents were everything. So James calls, and James sends stuff for her birthday, and James sends stuff throughout the year, and that's all great. You know, I mean, I'm really happy that he calls, and sometimes I go say hello to James, and she goes, "Hi, James," and she'll go, "Hi, Padrino," or she'll walk away, and that's the end of the conversation. I mean, besides that, she really doesn't know what it all means, you know. But Mercy is now 3. My daughter is 3. And by this time in my life, my dad was gone. So my mom, at an early age, well, I mean, they baptized me when I was like, you know, whatever it is, 4 months old in Cuba.
Is that early?
No, that's about the time we baptized Mercy, 6 months old, whatever the fuck it was. They baptized me in Cuba, and then they all migrated together. They were all Americans already. They had been in the States already. And when I was born, they came to Cuba for vacation. I had a godmother. But somewhere over the years, my godfather and my godmother broke up. And it was one of those dirty divorces with no kids. But my godfather got me. It was the weirdest thing. And since he lived in New York and my godmother lived in Miami, I really didn't have that much contact with my godmother. What had happened was my mother was so loyal to Gabby. That was my godfather's name, Gabby Lang, right? She was so loyal to him that, you know, when there's a divorce, you have to pick a side. A lot of people don't know that.
So they took the godparents in the divorce. So who you had to get a new
No, no, no,
godmother?
no, 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 no. When they got divorced,
Right,
my mom was tighter. My mom and dad had grown up with Gabby.
right.
So they hung out with Gabby. So they kind of steered away from my godmother.
Okay.
You follow me? So then that was that. I didn't really have a godmother after that. But in the summers, when I would go to Miami, I would see my godmother. She'd sneak over and give me money and give me jewelry and hang out with me. She was fucking beautiful. I forget what her name was, like Samantha or something. She was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Cuban woman. And my mom said her and I were really tight. Like it was a heartbreaking thing for everybody involved. But my mom had to make a choice. Your parents got divorced. I'm sure that your dad's friends went with your dad, and your
Yeah,
mom's friends went with your mom's. That's what happens during a divorce.
of course.
Same thing happened with this. So I was tighter with my godfather because he lived in New York City. So the privilege that I had was that he would pick me up on Saturday mornings, and we'd do creepy things. Like we'd go get a haircut, and then he'd stop at like some weird guy's house, and then we'd fucking go get a hot dog, and then we'd talk about cars or something, and he'd buy me like a Hot Wheels, and then we'd go to a movie theater and we'd watch like a James Bond movie, or like The Love Bug, or you know, some fucking not Disney, but the other ones, Snoopy. You know, he took me through a few animated films. You know, and he was just a cool dude. And he'd bring me back like at 6, and he'd take me to eat Chinese food. And then as I got older, he would smoke in front of me.
Weed.
Yeah, he would smoke weed in front of me, and I would see a man. That was the first person I ever saw giggle. Like he would just constantly giggle, like when he got high. We would go to like he would roll it on like a street corner, and we'd smoke. He'd smoke it on the street, and he would tell me not to tell my mother. But I already knew about that shit because my mother smoked something that was similar to that. You follow me? So I kind of put 2 and 2 together. That's how I knew my mother was smoking pot. But my mother's reaction to reefer, my mother smoked reefer to go to bed. Gabby smoked reefer for the same reasons I smoked reefer today. To giggle, to have a great time, to just add color to life. And then him and I would go to the movies. You know what I'm saying? So by the time I got to be like 7 or 8, he took me to see a fucking Clint Eastwood movie. He took me to see one of those Dirty Harry movies, right?
Okay.
And maybe I was a little older. Maybe I was 10. Who the fuck knows? I was a fucking kid, you know? And after the movie, he's telling me about his gun. He's telling me all about Clint Eastwood's gun. Dirty Harry's got a 344 Mac, whatever the fuck gun he had in the movie. And then we're sitting there, and we go to eat something, and right away he takes the gun out from under the table.
Mm-hmm.
And I see him doing something, and I look under the table, and he hands me the gun. And here I am, a kid in some fucking restaurant in New York City, holding a gun in a restaurant. This is how cool he was.
Whoa.
I wasn't allowed to
My heart just stopped, and I'm 27.
I wasn't allowed to tell my mother none of this shit. He would say, don't say nothing to your mother because she'll kill me. And then I won't be able to see you on Saturdays. I couldn't imagine my life on Saturdays without Gabby. On Saturdays at my house, it was a weird day because by Saturday, my mother was dead tired. So Saturday mornings, it was already established that this lady came over, a lady whose name was Sophia. In fact, her name was Sophia Cecilia. That was the lady who my mother took her name and used it as an alias and then paid her money all those years. She was Goying's mother, this lady who my mom and
What's
her...
Goying?
Goying was a Puerto Rican woman.
That's not a person's name. Goying?
That was her name. That was that was her slang name. Goying was a Puerto Rican woman who her and my mom had like a little bank in like the 60s, a bookmaking bank, 2 broads. And they took numbers, and they knew how to take numbers. And people knew who the fuck these 2 women were. And then Goying kept the bank close to her house in Brooklyn, and my mom kept her bank in the Bronx, and then it moved to Manhattan over the years. So that's a true story. So on Saturdays, it was well known that at 8 in the morning the key would turn, and it was fucking Sophia. And I'd be sitting in front of the television. I'd be a young kid, maybe 3 or 4, and Sophia would walk in and give me cereal with milk, and then she'd talk to me in Spanish for a little while, for like an hour or 2. And while she was doing that, she was doing laundry and ironing clothes and folding clothes and cleaning the house. My mom would be passed the fuck out. And then about 11, about 10, I already knew to jump in the shower on my own. I would jump in there. And I was a young boy. I would jump in the shower and get combed up, and I'd put a chain on and a ring and nice shoes. And about 11 o'clock, it never failed, my godfather would come and get me. And if it was the wintertime, we put a fucking hooded sweatshirt on or a jacket. If it was the summertime, we just went out. And we would just do weird things. It was like the only man I really had in my life. One time, he took me down to Riverside Drive there, like by 89th, 90th Street. There's like a tomb there, Washington's whatever, or Lincoln's something. There's some statue there. And I'll never forget that a dude was walking his dogs, and he had the one leash, the dog's off the leash. And the one dog came over and just snipped me, and how fucking Gabilan went off on the fucking guy. And I always thought he was on a superhero too, because he was because until then I didn't even know what he was. I didn't know whether he was a stoner. I didn't know none of those terms. I knew during the week he had a job. That's why I saw him on Saturdays. Do you follow me? Like during the week I'd never see him. He had like some type of job. So I just see him on Saturdays.
Were you always really excited to see him?
Fuck yeah.
What I had 2 male uncles or cousins who were older, and like whenever they came over, it was just like superheroes almost. Was it like that, or like because you didn't have a father, so I can imagine it would be even more.
Yeah, I loved him. I fucking loved him. When he would take me on those journeys around Manhattan and shit, and he never drank in front of me. He just smoked pot in front of me. Like I never saw him really drink till I got older. Like he always just smoked like a skinny joint in front of me. He rolled his joints really skinny, and he would go. He'd make like a noise at the end, And he'd hold it in for a long time, and he'd go, Jose Antonio. He always called me Jose Antonio, right? And I don't know. It was the fucking weirdest relationship. Like, I think back, I was always with him in New York. Even after Juan married my mother, every Saturday like clockwork. And if I was a bad boy, my punishment was not to see Gabby.
Was it the worst thing that
The
your mom
worst.
could do?
Yeah, that was like taking my privileges from seeing my godfather were fucking brutal. Brutal. And then I got older and I would still see him. And then we moved to Jersey. And I didn't see him for a while. And he'd call me. I always talked to him. And he always like mailed me letters with pictures and shit. And I couldn't figure out. And then years later, I found out he was doing time. Like he was doing time for little shit in Miami. He would go to Miami in the summers and then come to New York in the fucking winters. And and this is where I'm going with this, that I wish Mercy had a godparent that I could just go take her on Saturdays or take her on Sundays. Have a good day. Bye. And, they go get ice cream. She goes, gets her nails done. They go to the fucking movies. They go buy dresses. Whatever the fuck they go do. I would love to have that. Like, I think that Mercy would like it too. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is to have a godparent. That's why the commitment is so heavy. I was fortunate because my godfather did not have children. Do you follow me?
So he had a lot of love to give?
He had a lot of love for me, and he didn't have his hands filled with another child.
Do you want Mercy to have a godmother or godfather?
I like for one of them to be... Well, James is active. James talks to her. When we went to New York, James came to see her once, and then we all went out to eat. James, these people, the people I grew... Listen, now, there's two types of culture of people. There's the people in California that I have around me now, and there's the people that I grew up with. When I went home, just the people that came to see her and came and chatted with her and said, I know your dad, or whatever the fuck, it makes me feel good, that I have somebody if something happens to me, like it's just... And the people that I grew up around, their culture calls for a godparent. Like James, for example. He's tight with his godmother. I don't know if he's tight with his godfather, but he's tight with his godmother. His godmother and his mother were sisters. They were together when James's mother died.
Jesus.
So, do you understand me? That
I wonder why it's not that big for Jews. Cause maybe it is for some, but it's not for. It hasn't been for my family.
Well, okay. Now, let's say you're Jewish. Let's say whatever the fuck you are. Just because you're not Catholic doesn't mean that your parents don't have godparents.
Oh, I have a godparent, but we didn't have like a ongoing. He's just also an uncle. He's an uncle who is my godparent.
No, I always dreamed to be somebody's godparent, but if I was their godparent, I'd be their godparent on one condition, that I'd be involved. The calls, a bank account with me putting money in there for their savings, for their college. That's a godparent.
Yeah.
Every week I show up. When the kid's fucking 12, the parents look at me and go, take him to get his dick sucked. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got to take him to some alley and get his dick sucked. Like, like they expect the godfather to do shit like that. Like, if I'm your kid's godchild,
right?
When you're 13, you're going to come to me to pull me aside and go, listen, the fucking mom, Paula, she protects this kid. Take him down to North Hollywood Park and get him into a beat. It's easier if I'm not there. Just call me. Make sure you don't get
stitched up. Why are you putting it out there already?
What's that?
Why are you putting it out there already?
I'm just saying. That's what a godparent, a cool godparent does. You pull me aside and go, listen.
Take him down and get her beaten.
Talk to your goddaughter before I knock the fuck out of her. She's dating some fucking black dude, and I can't have that in my house. My mother will disown me. I'm not in a will. You know what I'm saying? Like something. I'm not meaning a black dude. I'm meaning anything. Anything. Could be a fucking Arabian dude. Who's fucking better than you, Lisa? Anyway, I'm just fucking saying that's what you also do. Like, when I got in trouble as a child, my godparent would have to come over and give me a fucking lecture. So it wasn't bad enough I had to get an ear beaten from my mom and an ear beaten from my stepdad. Now in an hour, Gabby was on his way here to ask me if I was fucking retarded. Like, what are you, stupid, throwing fucking, like shit like that. What the fuck are you giggling about? Nobody.
Why did you like him? What did he do?
He did an error.
I knew a second ago, but now keep going from where you told it, because then
You know that little forehead you got?